Scott Peterson. I mean, you just say the name and it brings it all back, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The trial of the century, it was a media spectacle that just took over the country for what felt like years.
And it ended with this rare double homicide conviction for his wife, Laci, and their unborn son, Connor. That verdict has been the story for 2 decades.
Right. But now that entire story, that definitive truth is being challenged in a huge way.
Huge is an understatement.
We're talking about a massive, nearly 700-page legal petition. It's from the LA Innocence Project, and they're basically arguing Scott Peterson didn't get a fair trial. Not even close.
Because of new evidence and, maybe more importantly, suppressed evidence.
Egregious suppression is the term they use.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. For anyone who needs a quick refresher, Laci Peterson, 8 months pregnant, she vanishes on Christmas Eve 2002.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband, Scott, claims he was out on a solo fishing trip in the San Francisco Bay.
The prosecution, though, they successfully argued that he killed her on or around that day, dumped her body in the bay, and then lied about his affair with Amber Frey.
It was a case that led to Laci and Connor's law. It was just monumental.
It was. So for a deep dive today, we're not here to argue guilt or innocence. That's not the mission.
Right.
We are here to analyze the 14 specific legal claims in this petition. We're looking at the new facts, the suppressed evidence, the things the defense says completely pull the rug out from under the original conviction.
We're looking for the cracks in the foundation.
Exactly. And the first crack, maybe the biggest one, goes right to the scientific timeline that held the whole original case together.
That timeline was absolutely critical. I mean, the prosecution had to prove the murder happened around December 24th to make Scott's fishing trip the opportunity.
They did. And the key to that was estimating the gestational age of their son, Connor.
So what's the bombshell claim now? How does this petition just blow up that timeline?
It's a recantation, and not from just some minor witness. It's from the prosecution's own star medical expert, Dr. Gregory DeVore.
Wow.
At the trial, he testified that based on Connor's bone growth, the time of death was likely somewhere between December 21st and December 24th.
A perfect window for the prosecution's theory. It fits the fishing trip perfectly.
It fit like a glove. But now, in this new petition, Dr. DeVore has completely retracted that.
He's taken it back.
He's reevaluated his own science, updated his methods, and now says the scientifically defensible window for the time of death is January 1st through January 5th, 2003.
Wait, January? That's more than a week later.
A week later, and that's where this becomes so devastating for the state's case.
Because what was Scott Peterson doing between January 1st and January 5th?
Well, he wasn't on a solo fishing trip. He was the #1 suspect in the country. He was under intense, around-the-clock police surveillance.
Visual surveillance, GPS trackers on his car.
All of it. So just, think about that for a second. The prosecution's own expert now says the murder most likely happened at a time when Scott was being actively monitored by law enforcement.
Not when he was alone on Christmas Eve.
Not at all. The entire narrative it collapses. How does the state explain that?
Right. If the timeline is gone, then the Christmas Eve theory is gone, which means we have to look at what else might have happened that morning.
Which brings us to the burglary, the one that happened right across the street from the Peterson home on December 24th.
This was always part of the defense theory, right? That maybe third parties were involved, but police just fixated on Scott.
They fixated on Scott, and this petition claims they ignored a mountain of evidence pointing to these burglars. The centerpiece is brand new testimony.
From one of the burglars himself.
Yes, a sworn affidavit just from August 2024 from a man identified as RZ.
And what does he say?
He says he was there. He, Stephen Todd, and Glenn Pierce were robbing the Medina house across the street. And he says that around 10:30 in the morning.
Well after Scott had already left for his trip.
Long after. A visibly pregnant woman, matching Laci's description, walking her dog, came right up to them and confronted them.
She confronted them.
Threatened to call the cops.
Wow. Okay, so that puts Laci alive, at her home, interacting with active criminals after Scott is gone. But this is 22 years later. Why is this affidavit so powerful now?
Because it's not just his word. This is the crucial part. It is powerfully corroborated by other evidence that the police allegedly had back in 2003.
And suppress.
Let's start with the correctional officer.
Okay.
In January 2003, before the bodies were even found, a lieutenant at a rehab facility is monitoring a recorded phone call.
A routine thing.
Right. And on the call, he hears one inmate tell his brother that Stephen Todd, the burglar, was confronted by Laci during the break-in and that he threatened her. This officer reported it directly to a Modesto PD detective.
So the police knew. In January 2003, they knew that one of the burglars was being tied to a confrontation with Laci.
They were told. But what happened to the recordings? The police reports.
Let me guess.
They're gone. Vanished. The petition claims they were either destroyed or buried.
Unbelievable. And that's not the only one, is it?
No. There's another witness, totally separate, James Romano. He was incarcerated in February 2003.
And he overheard something.
He overheard a group of men talking about that same burglary, and one of them said Laci came up to their van and threatened to call the police. Same story.
And he tried to get this info to the defense.
He did. But the prosecution had his reports, and they sat on them. They didn't turn them over until October 2004.
Which was when?
Literally 2 days before the close of evidence at the trial. It was basically useless by then. You can't just throw that into a defense strategy at the last second.
So you have a pattern emerging. Multiple independent sources telling police that Laci confronted burglars, and that information just disappears or gets held back until it's too late.
Exactly. And then you add in the abduction witness, a former reserve police officer. He saw a pregnant woman who looked just like Laci being pushed into an old van by two men near a local park on the 24th or 25th.
And coming from a former officer, you'd think that would get a serious look.
You would, but the petition claims it was never properly investigated.
This goes beyond just witness statements, though. The petition talks about physical evidence that could have linked the burglars to Laci. Let's talk about the missing watch.
The Croton watch. Yeah, this is explosive.
So what's the story here?
7 days after Laci vanished, an associate of one of the burglars, a woman named Deanna Renfro, she pawns a gold Croton watch at a shop in Modesto.
Okay.
And get this, it was the only Croton watch pawned at that shop in the last 6 months.
That feels like way too much of a coincidence. That watch was a key piece of missing property.
It was. Now, Detective Grogan eventually found the pawn slip, but he testified that he just decided it didn't match Laci's and did nothing else.
But that's not what the pawn shop owner says.
Not at all. The owner, Sam Newman, gave a new statement. He says police called him, told him to put the watch on hold because it might be Laci Peterson's. Then they came, they took the watch, and it was never seen again.
So the defense isn't just saying police failed to investigate the watch. They're saying police may have actively seized and buried the one piece of physical evidence linking Laci's property to these other suspects.
Precisely, and the pattern just continues with the van.
The mysterious burned-out van.
Yep, found on Christmas morning, the day after Laci disappeared. An orange van intentionally set on fire, so it's arson.
And it was found near where the burglars live.
Right, and inside, investigators found a blood-stained mattress.
A blood-stained mattress. I feel like that should have been a major focus.
You'd think so, but the photos of that mattress, the video of the forensics, the full report on the van, all of it was suppressed. The defense didn't get it until 10 years after the conviction.
10 years. So there's this trail of breadcrumbs witnesses, a watch, a burned van with blood all pointing away from Scott, and it all leads nowhere because it was ignored or hidden.
That's the core argument, that this wasn't just a mistake, it was tunnel vision. It's summed up by what one detective, Detective Burkini, allegedly told a witness who reported seeing Laci. He just said, "We've already got our guy."
Wow.
They claim 15 different people saw Laci walking her dog after Scott left. 5 knew her personally, and they were all dismissed.
Okay, let's shift back to the prosecution's case. They had to explain how the bodies got from Scott's boat to where they washed ashore. They used oceanography for that.
They did. They argued the currents took the bodies from near Brooks Island, where Scott was fishing, south to where they were found.
And the new petition challenges this with new science.
With state-of-the-art science. The defense brought in a coastal ecology expert who used the same computer modeling software the Army Corps of Engineers uses.
The best stuff available.
Exactly. And the model shows that if the bodies were put in the water near Brooks Island, the currents would have taken them north.
North, not south.
North, toward Richmond. The opposite direction of where they were found.
So the prosecution's entire theory of the body disposal is scientifically impossible, according to this new model.
It's directly contradicted. The model suggests a much more likely spot for the bodies to have entered the water, a place called the Albany Bulb.
And what's significant about that location?
It's a former landfill, a peninsula. You can drive right onto it. You don't need a boat.
Which opens the door for anyone to have done it, not just someone with a boat like Scott.
Correct. And there's forensic evidence to back this up. The bodies had red algae on them.
Okay.
That type of algae grows in shallow, near-shore water. like at the Albany Bowl. It does not grow in the deep bay water where Scott said he was fishing.
So the algae, the currents, it all points to a different location. A location that doesn't require Scott's boat.
It removes his boat from the equation entirely.
And they challenge other forensics too, right? The tracking dog.
Yeah, the prosecution's dog found Laci's scent at the marina. But the defense had another dog handler there the very same day, whose dog found absolutely no scent trail at all. The jury never got to really weigh that conflicting evidence.
So when you pile all of this up, the recanted timeline, the burglary witnesses, the suppressed watch and van, the new oceanography, what is the legal argument here? What does this all add up to?
It adds up to a claim under what's called the actual innocence gateway. It's a very high legal bar to clear.
What does it mean for you listening at home?
It means the defense has to show that it's more probable than not that no reasonable juror would have convicted Scott Peterson if they had seen all of this new and suppressed evidence.
And they're arguing this wasn't just a series of mistakes.
No, they're arguing it was confirmation bias. Investigators lock onto a suspect early, and then everything they see supports that theory, and everything that contradicts it gets ignored, or in this case, they allege, destroyed.
And it helps their case that the original trial already had a major legal flaw found in it.
A huge one. The California Supreme Court already reversed Scott's death sentence.
Why was that?
Because the trial judge wrongly dismissed 13 potential jurors just because they had general objections to the death penalty, even though they said they could still follow the law. It didn't overturn the guilt verdict, but it proved the original process was deeply flawed.
So we're left with this giant question mark. For 20 years, the story was Scott Peterson, the calculated killer. Now, there's this alternate story, a tragic coincidence of Laci confronting burglars, a story buried by an investigation that had already made up its mind.
And the next step is for the court to decide what to do with this petition. They could deny it, or they could issue what's called an order to show cause,
Which would force the prosecution to answer these claims.
point by point. And if that happens, Scott could get an evidentiary hearing.
And that's where this all comes to a head.
Yes. That's when people like RZ, the burglar, and Dr. DeVore, the medical expert, would have to testify live, under oath. It would all move from paper into a real courtroom.
Which will be the next incredible chapter. But it leaves one final question.
Yeah.
I mean, given how the media, how public opinion just convicted Scott Peterson from day one, could you even find an impartial jury today, 20 years later, to look at all this new, complicated evidence with fresh eyes? Okay, let's unpack that thought further on your own time.